Clicking print in SAP, it seems so simple, right? Just one of those everyday things you do. You've got your report, maybe an invoice, or even just a quick Hello World test. You hit the button and expect the paper to just appear. But have you ever stopped to think, really think, about what's actually happening behind the scenes? There's this whole complex dance of data and processes. Today, that's what we're doing. We're pulling back the curtain on SAP Spool Administration. Our mission in this deep dive is to unravel that complexity, demystify the whole thing, show you how SAP gets that document from your screen to the actual printer. We've got some pretty detailed technical info as our source, and we're going to break it down, find the really important bits, maybe some surprising facts just for you.
Yeah, this isn't just about ink and paper. It's actually about understanding the cool engineering inside this massive software system.
Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. You're logged into SAP, you've typed Hello World, you click print. What's the absolute first thing that kicks off?
Right, so the moment you hit that button, SAP springs into action. Now, interestingly, the first stop isn't a dedicated print process, not immediately anyway. It actually goes to a dialogue work process first.
A dialogue process. Huh, okay. Why that?
Well, that dialogue work process is responsible for creating two things right off the bat. Something called a spool request and the spool data itself. The spool request, think of it like a unique ticket number for your print job, like a transport request ID, but for printing. It's purely for tracking.
Okay, a tracking number, got it. And the spool data?
That's the actual content, your Hello World or your report data. And this is key, it's completely raw, unformatted. It doesn't know about page size or fonts yet, just the basic information.
Raw data and a number. So where does this stuff live temporarily? It can't just float around in memory, can it?
Exactly. It needs a quick place to land, and that's called TempC. It stands for Temporary Sequential Database.
TempC.
Think of it as a kind of super fast, short-term holding area in SAP's architecture. Data goes in, gets processed, and is usually meant to be cleared out pretty quickly, not for long-term storage at all.
Now, I heard this is where it gets really interesting because where that TempC data is stored isn't always the same, right? There's a parameter involved.
That's right. There's a crucial system parameter, SPA store location, and this little setting dictates where that temporary spool data actually resides.
And it has two main options.
Correct. It can be set to G or DB.
G or DB, what do they mean?
So G means global directory. If it's set to G, the spool data gets saved in the file system at the application server level. A path like USR SAP SAD global.
Right, like a regular file on the server.
Yeah.
And DB.
DB means database.
Sure.
In this case, that temporary spool data is stored directly inside the main SAT database, specifically in tables like T01 and T03.
Okay, database versus file system. What are the pros and cons there? Why choose one over the other?
Good question. With DB, the big advantage is backup convenience.
Sure.
Your daily database backups automatically grab this spool data because, well, it's in the database.
Makes sense. Easy backup.
But the downside is, this is temporary data, remember. Storing lots of it in your main database can make the database unnecessarily large. It can really increase growth and potentially impact performance over time.
Database bloat. Not good. What about G, the file system?
With G, the disadvantage is sort of the opposite. File system backups, they aren't always done daily like database backups often are. So that temporary data might not get backed up as frequently.
I see. Trade-offs.
Exactly. And that's why, whichever method you use, these things called housekeeping jobs are absolutely essential. Standard jobs like Zapier Goldpool or Zapier ABAP Temps, their whole purpose is to automatically clean up this old temporary data. Prevents the system getting clogged up, especially important if you're using DB storage, to keep that database trim.
Okay, this whole initial part, it sounds like there needs to be a traffic cop. Is the main dispatcher handling all this directly? You mentioned the dialogue process starts it.
Yeah, that's a subtle but important point about SAP's design. The dispatcher routes the initial request, yes, but it sends it to an available dialogue work process.
Yeah.
It's the dialogue WP that actually does the work of creating the spool request number and the raw spool data. It's kind of a load balancing thing. Dialogue processes handle user interactions anyway.
Okay. So the dialogue process does the initial grunt work.
Precisely. And only after that raw data is created and saved to TempC, if it's a print job, then the dialogue process hands off the task to a specialized spool work process.
Right. The spool work process, we mentioned that earlier. So if the dialogue WP makes the request number and the raw data, what's the spool WP actually doing then? What's its specific job?
That's the critical next step. The spool work process picks up that raw data from TempC. Its main function is formatting. It takes that raw Hello World and applies the specific formatting for the printer you selected. Is it a check? Needs a check layout? Is it standard A4? Different formatting, a fax, yet another format. It tailors the raw data.
It's like the translator,
Yeah,
basically.
and once it's perfectly formatted for the target device, then it creates what's called an output request. This output request contains the formatted data ready for the operating system's printer.
Okay, let me see if I got this straight. Spool request. Number plus raw data made by dialog WP. Output request. Formatted data, ready to print, made by spool WP.
You've got it. That's the core distinction. The spool request is the job tracker with raw ingredients. The output request is the finished dish, ready to be served to the printer.
Okay, so that output request is ready, formatted beautifully. How does it actually get from the SAP system, which could be anywhere, to the physical printer on my desk or maybe down the hall? How does it make that jump?
That bridge is built using something called the access method. It's basically a code, usually just a single letter like C, L, S, U, or F, that you configure in SAP.
An access method, like a connection type.
Pretty much, yeah. It tells SAP how to talk to the printer specifically, what operating system the printer is connected to, and what kind of printing setup or architecture is involved. It's the technical instruction for making contact.
All right, let's break down the main ways a user might print from SAP. I think there are 3 fundamental types.
That's right. 3 main scenarios, each using different access methods. First up is local printing.
Local meaning.
Local means the SAP spoolwork process, the thing doing the formatting, and the operating system's own print manager, its spooler, are running on the very same machine, the same host.
Ah, okay. Server and printer spooler on one box.
Exactly. If that host is running Windows, you'd use access method C. If it's a Linux or Unix system, you use L. The L method tells SAP to use standard OS commands like LP or LPD to hand the job over.
Okay, local is C or L. What's next?
Second is remote printing. This is when the SAP spoolwork process is on one server, but the printer itself is managed by a different machine somewhere else on the network.
So across the network.
Yep. And for this to work, that remote machine hosting the printer needs a fixed IP address so SAP knows where to send the formatted output request.
Makes sense. What are the codes here?
There are 2 main ones for remote,
Mm-hmm.
S and U. You use S when the remote system relies on SAP's own protocol, SAP when, maybe because proper drivers aren't installed there. SAP does more of the rendering work itself. You use U when the remote machine does have the necessary printer drivers installed. U uses the Berkeley protocol, and it lets the remote OS handle more of the final print rendering. Often gives you more printer feature access.
S or U for remote. Got it. And the third type, the really common one.
That would be front-end printing. This is probably what most users experience day to day. Printing happens on your local computer, the one running the SAP GUI, your user interface.
So the SAP system is far away, but the printout comes from the printer plugged into my laptop or desktop.
Exactly that. And for this scenario, the access method is always F.
F for front end. That's amazing flexibility, really. You can have a printer right next to the server, one across the world connected via the network, or one sitting right on your desk at home, and SAP has a way.
It really is quite powerful. It allows SAP to work in almost any network configuration.
Yeah.
Think about retail stores like a D-Mart or maybe a Starbucks counter using SAP.
Yeah.
The main SAP servers are likely in a central data center miles away.
Mm-hmm.
But when they print your receipt right there at the till, that's front-end printing. Access method F, telling the SAP GUI on that till PC to use its locally connected printer.
That's a great example. So all this complexity, local, remote, front end, setting it all up must involve some specific tools for the administrators, right? And how do they check if my print actually worked?
Absolutely. There are 2 primary transaction codes, T codes, that are the bread and butter for SAP print administrators. The first one is SPAD.
SPA, Spool Administration.
It's exactly. SP is where you configure the output devices in SAP printers, fax machines, anything SAP sends formatted outprint to.
How do you configure one?
Well, crucially, the printer must be set up at the operating system level first. That trips people up sometimes. You need to install it in Windows Control Panel or configure it on Linux before you go into SAP.
OS level first, okay. Then in SP.
Then in SP, you define a name for the printer within SAP. You choose a device type like HP LaserJet, maybe Dell, or sometimes a generic one like SAP W1 if a specific driver isn't listed. You assign it to an SAP Spool server.
And pick the access method.
And you absolutely must select the correct access method, C, L, S, U, or F, depending on whether it's local, remote, or front end, and the OS involved. Getting that code right is vital.
Okay, SP8 for setup. What's the other T code for checking things?
That's SP01, the spool request display. This is where admins go to monitor and manage all those spool requests we talked about, the ones with the unique number.
So you put the number in there.
Yep. You enter the stool request number, and SP01 shows you its status. You'll see things like completed if it printed successfully, error if something went wrong sending the data, in processing if it's currently busy, or sometimes just a hyphen, which usually means the printer defined in the request isn't actually configured properly in SP8. I've seen admins waste hours on that hyphen.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you can see logs, too.
Oh, yes. SP01 provides access to detailed logs for troubleshooting. If there's an error, the logs are the first place to look to figure out why.
So for you listening, if your print job ever fails in SAP, this is what's happening behind the scenes. The admin is likely in SP01, looking at your request number, checking that status, maybe digging into the logs to see why your hello world didn't make it. Wow. We've really covered some ground today. From just clicking print, we've seen this whole invisible world spring to life. Dialog processes, spool processes, temp-c storage, global directories versus databases, access methods, SPID, SP01. It's quite a journey.
It really is a complex but a pretty elegant system when you break it down. Designed for scale and flexibility.
And it really makes you appreciate what goes into these massive enterprise systems, doesn't it? Things we take for granted, like printing, rely on some serious engineering and administration. So what does this all mean for you? Well, next time you hit print in SAP, maybe you'll picture that little ballet of processes kicking off. And it makes you wonder, what other simple clicks do you perform every day in SAP? Confirming an order, posting a goods movement. What kind of hidden, intricate systems are working away just beneath that surface, huh? What other complexities are waiting for their own deep dive? Something to think about.